Okay, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is filing an order to reinstate the juvenile curfew again this weekend through Sunday night, starting at 8 o'clock in the Navy Yard neighborhood of Washington and 11 p.m. citywide. The Navy Yard area has been the site of multiple teen takeovers recently. We've been talking about it on this network. I used to live there, and I left because of all of the insanity you're watching on the screen. And that includes an all-out brawl at a Chipotle restaurant last month. The curfew bars all kids under 18 now from gathering in a group of 9 or more in an area Metro Police now call at risk for disorderly conduct by youth. So 3 teenagers now arrested just this week on assault in connection to that chaotic fight inside a Navy Yard Chipotle last month. And you can see the dad in this video in a red shirt shielding his kids from that brawl. They're just there to get some food. D.C. Metro Police are now still looking for a 4th suspect. For more, let's bring in that Maryland dad that you saw in that video who protected his kids at the restaurant. He is Rafael Jauregui. And also with him, D.C. Police Union President Greg Pemberton, who's just been watching this city go down the drain the last couple of years here. So, Rafael, tell us all your story. You're there. I've been at this Chipotle so many times. You're there getting some food with your kids. What happens?
That's right, Aisha. Thank you for having me on the show. And I've had so many people come to me and say, I know that Chipotle, right? And so it's a safe spot to eat with kids after a ball game. So that was my going into it, was in there, as I said in previous reports there, that was just eating, heard a scuffle, alarms went up, right? I look up, and then I told the children, get up, get behind me. Didn't know the level of the extent of what was going to happen, but then it started escalating, and then I said in another interview, it was like an ambush. It just turned into WrestleMania, and what a lot of folks don't know is that video was just the last 10 or 15 seconds. I actually believe that it was about an 8-minute long from start to finish, and the WrestleMania crazy was about 4 minutes. But you know, there's time and space, and then you know, I don't know the exacts, but that's what I'm projecting. And
were your kids just traumatized?
Yes. So one of the things my son said was, "Papa, I just can't unsee that." The other children said, "I just can't unhear it." We've tried a few times to softball it, a different location, go to Chipotle, and they are just not having it. I was a season ticket holder. I am a season ticket holder of the Nats game. They don't want to come back to a Nats games, and so I'm sort of like, oh my gosh, this is
ruined the experience.
This is ruining it.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm so sorry for you.
Okay. Yeah.
And just for context, for people at home to understand where it is right next to Nats Park.
Right next.
There's so many cool, fun places to go right next to Nats Park. So this is like a tourism thing. This is like a problem for the entire city, not just for the people who live there who deserve to you know, be able to go and eat at Chipotle without any
What's
any
opportunity cost, right? Folks want to come into the city. They want to spend their hard-earned money on the weekend and do things in D.C. And now folks are like, I don't think so.
Do that. Yeah. Greg, you know, the president has threatened to take over D.C. Here's the moment from the Oval Office this week.
Maybe we'll take back Washington, run it on the federal basis. We won't put up with it. We're not going to lose our businesses. By the way, Washington now is a safe, beautiful place. We have a thriving community. We got rid of the crime. We're 92% down on crime. Think of it. And we're going to be close to 100% pretty soon. You always have some whack job someplace, but we're going to be close to 100%.
But let me read you something from The Hill. They looked up some research into the crime in D.C., and they found that while the Guard's presence, the National Guard the president brought in Washington helped drive down some crime, including a 24% decline in opportunistic property crime, the report found it is not the correct tool for violent offenses and comes at a far higher cost than a traditional police law enforcement. What is the answer here?
Well, what that report fails to acknowledge is that the Metropolitan Police Department is spending more than $100 million outside of their budget on overtime in order to make sure that we're staffing these areas with the proper number of police officers, given the shortage of staffing levels that we have. The National Guard has allowed us to close that gap. So somewhere there's going to be spending, but I think the takeaway here is that when you put law enforcement resources in a neighborhood, crime goes down. And I think that's the important part of this issue, is that we need to have the right number of police officers in these right areas, and that's why the staffing issues are so important.
Raphael, you know, we've got this big mayor's race happening in town. It makes me feel like we're in New York City now, because we just saw a Democratic Socialist, Mamdani, win in New York City, and the front runner in the D.C. mayoral race is a Democratic Socialist. And her name is Janice Lewis George, and here is her view on curfews.
Right now, using the curfew as a tool for our young people is dangerous. It is dangerous because we have federal troops who are in our city, mass ICE agents who are in our city. And these are the people enforcing this law on our young people. And these are not individuals who are trained in de-escalation.
What do you think of that, Raphael? Your dad.
Yes. So the tool, if misused, could be dangerous. But I want to clarify here, it is a stopgap measure. So a curfew is not the long-term solution. The long-term solution is for us to identify how do we get the city to have citizens that want to participate in citizenship. And I believe that the stopgap measure is the appropriate right measure, because we see that evidence. There's that feedback loop, right? You institute something, what happens?
Right.
Is there a decrease? Great.
The problem with these curfews, Greg, and I've heard this from people who live there, and by the way, there's a ton of lawmakers and Capitol Hill staffers, young people, interns, I mean, kids that live there as well. The problem with the curfews that I always hear is they only last the weekend, and then it's over, and then you're dealing with the same crap all week long.
That's true, and it is a stopgap measure. But I think what's interesting is the hill that Janice Lewis George wants to die on, is that unattended children should be able to roam city streets after 11 p.m. I mean, I think that's a pretty common sense position, that these kids should be inside and they should be, have some sort of supervision. Unfortunately, we're up against a city council that wants to make sure that there are no laws that affect juveniles, no matter what they are, no matter how bad the crime they're committing is.
Wow. Well, I hope Chipotle is paying attention. I hope the city is paying attention. And I know President Trump is very much paying attention to you both. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope your kids feel better about going back to the ballpark. That is just awful that we have kids that don't feel comfortable going to a baseball game.
Right,
Thank you,
right.
Raphael.
Thank you.
Thank you.